Hey, listeners, from the Demystified Zone crew, thank you for an amazing 2023. In the spirit of North Korea, we'd love to invade your personal lives even more by asking you to ask your loved ones, coworkers, friends, babysitters to like, download, and subscribe the Demystified Zone podcast. Marshall will be proud of you. Hey, what's up, Dan?
Hey.
Welcome to the studio.
Yes, we're back here.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit. Yeah.
We've kind of been holding up. Not holding. Is it holding or holing?
I think holing.
Holing, because the animals hole up.
Yeah.
Because of the cold weather.
Yep.
For those of you who are in the Midwest with us, our brothers and sisters in suffering.
Yeah.
This is why we do it, right? Last week, what did we hit last week? Minus 20?
Something like that. Wind chill was definitely like minus 30, 40.
How are your pipes? You check your pipes?
They're good.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
They're good. Yeah.
See, non-Midwest folks, they don't even know about this.
The pipes.
They don't know about the pipes. You got to look at the pipes.
You got to watch out for the pipes for sure.
We had some dripping out of our attic, and it was the worst way to wake up.
Oh.
Like, I heard dripping. I was like, where is that dripping coming from? Had to open up the crawl space in the attic, found the dripping.
Was it because of a...
No, so because I live in the city and we have a flat roof, the snow dams build up.
Yeah.
So if the snow dam builds up, it'll find like the tiniest air bubble to get into. So it was like a tiny drip, which is great. So I had to literally go onto my roof and shovel my roof. This is what I do every year. I shovel my roof. I have a harness and a 100-foot fall rope and everything.
Oh, wow.
I go up there and... Because my wife is known for saying, if you fall and die, I'm going to kill you. So I don't want to face double death.
I will resuscitate you so I could kill you again.
I go through all the pain, and she could. She's a medical professional. She could do CPR and then just slap me back to sleep.
Yeah.
But, so I go through all the pain of like shoving that so that I don't get the dripping. Anyway, that was the least though. Like, otherwise, house is holding up good.
Yeah.
Y'all are good out there in the country?
In the country, we're okay. Our dog, Luna, it was very hard for her to walk outside because of the cold.
No booties? No dog booties?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Those are really cute, but I just feel like they're so impractical for most dogs. Like, dogs
like
don't know how to walk with shoes.
Yeah, I feel like she would try to chew them off or something. Yeah. Anyways, even the dog would like go out and then want to come right back. I'm like, no, go pee first, go.
Is there?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are getting over cold now as you get older? There's this whole thing about as you get older, you want to go to Florida, West Coast, wherever, South.
We have been looking at real estate outside of Illinois this week or last week.
What? You're leaving me?
No.
Why are you doing this?
And then like after 2 days, we're like, what are we doing?
Like
we're not going to move. Yeah, exactly. So
it's not gotten to you yet. You still appreciate the cold, blistering winters.
It does help you appreciate the when it's good, but that's like what a abused person would say about their abuser. It's like, but when the good time is so good.
We have Stockholm syndrome with our weather.
With our weather, yeah.
I could see that, I guess. I think I do appreciate the summers more, though. I guess I haven't lived in perpetual summer before, but I like winter. I like being cold.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't mind it as much. Like my wife, she has an electric blanket, like moving with her 24/7 now. So
you should get her a Snuggie. Those things are great.
I should. She would love that
all the time.
Yeah.
She works from home, right?
Yeah, she does.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Snuggie suit. Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but we're talking about seasons, and there's a specific season that's going on right now in North Korea. In fact, it is in the height of the season. It has two heights: at the end of the calendar year, and then at the end of the lunar year, which is coming up. The Lunar New Year is coming up for those who don't follow the
Asian, calendar.
Hey, did any of your relatives do the lunar birthday? Have you ever had that experience?
No.
It's the most annoying thing in the world.
Isn't
it
your
changes
lunar
every year.
Oh,
your birthday is like a moving target, and if you don't know the calendar, Jay, you got any relatives like that? No.
No.
And I guess I shouldn't say that loud because it's my in-laws. We need to edit that part out for my own double death safety. But the lunar calendar birthday changes. So,
I see. It shifts with the lunar.
Yeah. And in kind of like the Korean way, they're trying to be modest and be like, oh, I don't remember my birthday. But they celebrate both birthday calendars.
Oh, man.
What is our
tough.
calendar called? Like the Gregorian calendar?
The Gregorian.
Yeah. That one and the lunar, and the other one's always a guess. So we took a stand that we're like, we're going to just pick one day. And that will be the day we celebrate you, even though we understand the lunar is different.
The lunar is different. And in Asia, they celebrate both New Year's. So it is very
well, it's like the
confusing.
Western New Year's and the Eastern New Year's,
I guess so.
know?
I guess so.
Because the rest of the world does financially and economically run on the Gregorian calendar. So we have to, like the markets have to. But
Korea, incidentally, recently, like last year, shifted. You know, there's Korean age and then real age. Like when you're born, you're 1 year old.
Yes.
And everyone at the Lunar New Year changes to the next year.
Okay.
So everyone's like birth Korean age.
So for like 2 months, you're like unknown how old you are. It's a mystery. You can say whatever you want.
So so that Korean age is by the government at least has been undone.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to
Gregorian.
Really?
So your birth date is when your age changes.
When did that happen?
Last year, yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
2023.
Now my cousins can no longer say they're older than me. Just kidding. But that did happen with friends in college where they'd be like, I'm older than you.
Yeah, even though you're the same year.
Yeah, same year.
Yeah, that was so annoying.
But they're from Korea, so they get the extra year ahead of you.
Oh, please.
Bow to me.
Yeah.
I'm older.
I hate that. Edit that out.
I'll bow to you, Dan.
Because I'm clearly older than you.
I'll bow to you, Hyungnim. All right, anyway, we're all over the place right now. So I brought up this whole lunar. There's something that's happening in North Korea.
Yeah.
It is bribe season. We are in the prime time of bribery season.
Yes, sir.
Dan, have you ever bribed someone or taken a bribe by somebody? Not related to your work, though.
Taking
Just
a
in
bribe.
regular living life. Have you bribed or been bribed?
No, not in my work, in my professional life. Yes, being in China.
Your wife never bribes you with things, certain things that you want?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or maybe you do it.
Yeah.
You withhold certain advantages, in order to get other things.
With our kids, all the time. You like with their screen time.
But you bribe them, or is it like a negotiation? Because this is a stark difference.
Huh. Yeah. What is at that point? What is a bribe and what is a negotiation?
That's a good question. I would say a bribe is always in like a position of like overwhelming power.
Oh, I see.
Right? Like a negotiation is like both sides are losing something.
Like, yeah.
Whereas the bribe, only one side is losing
that's
something.
True. That's true.
And the other side is gaining everything.
No, then no. I don't do that with my kids. Although now you're putting thoughts in my head.
Should we come up with new ways to bribe your children right here?
No, bribe me. My children can bribe me. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're listening, Stella, Jack, Andy, Dad is open to bribes now.
I am. I'm open for business in this new year.
I'm actually go back on my definition because I feel like people are going to disagree with that definition. The other party does get something. That's the whole point of the bribe, but they're paying dearly to get something.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
You're buying something essentially, but not because it's fair. Maybe fairness is the.
Jay, can you look up the definition of bribery? Yeah, because it is like very slippery, which is why it's hard to tell the difference. Okay, what is it? The giving or offering.
No, you got to go to the basic. Yeah, there you go.
Persuade to act in one's favor, typically illegally or dishonestly, by a gift of money or other inducement. Ooh.
persuade someone to act in one's favor. Okay.
Yeah.
That may typically illegally. It doesn't have to be illegal or dishonest though, which, we're going to get into this. There's a lot to talk about today, so let's just get into it.
It's very murky at times in Asia.
Bribery season in North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Bribes are always happening.
Yeah.
So this is not like they turn on all of a sudden. In North Korea, at the end of the year, the regular calendar year, all the way through the end of the lunar is this period or season where bribes in the government are just ramping up to another level.
Wow.
And the reason for this, similar to like if you're in a company or a government and you have a budget and the fiscal year's ending, right? If you have a shortfall or a surplus, you want to either spend or lose, right? So that next year's budget is secured.
Right.
The bribery season is a similar concept. It's really bizarre, I know. But basically, you like up your bribes or you save your money all year so that you can make sure you have enough to bribe at the end of the year so that next year you get the privileges or the access to things that you want as a government agency in Korea.
So is this a like an intra-governmental between like the Department of Defense and the Department of Interior type of thing, or just on an individual basis?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, and y'all can check out some of the articles. These are articles from last year's bribe season. But from what I understand and information out there, yes. So as I said, bribes are happening all the time, up and down the ladder in North Korea, from down to the citizen who's just trying to bribe their local minder to watch TV after hours or whatever it may be, all the way up to the top seeds of government right below. I mean, KJU is the only person that really doesn't have to bribe anybody, but everyone in the officials are bribing each other to get access to resources or funding or something. It could be anything. Really, it could be literally anything.
Just to garner goodwill.
Not only goodwill, but access, I think, or status. So, we talk about songbun a lot. That is one of the prime bribes that are made by government workers is to elevate their songbun status. So they can literally pay to be more socially acceptable.
Yeah. I mean,
of all the bizarre things we talk about in the show about North Korea, I think this is one of the more complex ones.
It is very complex. It is because if it's such a pervasive part of your culture, then the notion that this is wrong, like bribery, automatically that word, it connotes like, oh, there's something wrong with what you're doing, right? But if this is kind of how business is done and you've grown up with this type of culture, then it's hard to tell the difference at that point. I would imagine.
Yes, exactly. This is a way of life. It's not a moral dilemma.
Right.
Is how I look at it, right? Especially for North Korean culture.
Yes.
It's part of their economy, too.
Yeah.
The reason, and you can read this in the RFA article, the Radio Free Asia, is here's one of the quotes, is that bribery is a way of life in North Korea where meager government salaries are not enough to survive on.
Yes.
So, like many things that happen, there's a balance to life. When you limit a people, they're going to find a way to survive.
Right. So,
and this is the way.
The example that from an earlier episode was Dance Dance Revolution. I think it was like our second or third episode, where a teacher on her spare time was teaching kids Western dance moves, and then she got executed, unfortunately, because of that. And she was doing that because her teacher's salary wasn't enough.
Yes.
And it is very common in North Korea for parents to have to bribe your teachers so that they'll give them a good education.
Yeah. And here's what's mind-boggling about this is it's not relegated to like the lower class or lower economic status.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's up and down the entire
Yeah.
So top end officials, people who are living the quote unquote good life in North Korea are still doing this every year. In this article, even there's this quote saying like, it's rare actually for a budget, for a government agency to submit a budget without a bribe to be with it. Isn't that crazy? How many
Yeah.
apple pies are being sent with like an envelope baked into it? You know what I mean? Or I guess it's not apple. That's very American of me. Come on, duck. Duck. They're making like
Apple
platters
duck.
of duck, and they're like under all the duck is like this little envelope with money in there.
Is that a Shawshank reference?
Oh yeah, that is Shawshank. Good call. I wasn't going to bring that up, but yes. Remember the apple pie?
Yeah,
and
the
he
apple
takes
pie.
the bribe.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
But can you imagine?
Oh.
And okay, so this is where it gets really, I guess ethically, or I don't know ethical, but politically controversial in my brain.
Yeah.
Because obviously I sit here as an American and be like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. That's so, I was reading this article and be like, well, oh my gosh, that's so bizarre.
Mm.
What a weird way of living. But then I started thinking, is it so different here?
Yeah,
in
yeah.
America? Don't we just call it something else?
Okay, so for example, one of my close friends, his parents own a dry cleaners.
Okay.
They're going through a hard time, and they struck up this deal with the local government, like, oh, we'll wash the uniforms, right?
Okay.
But even then, the guy asked for a little kickback on the side.
The government guy did?
The government guy, yeah.
Yeah, that is a bribe.
That is definitely a bribe.
And did he take it?
Yeah, they took it because the business was struggling.
Shame. But
I'm not going to mention your name, but I could if you don't pay me.
we're going to do our own bribes here. That's going to be how
That's
we...
blackmail, actually. It's not bribe. Yeah,
That's
anyway.
true, isn't it? Yeah, what's the difference? But now we're getting to all this terminology. You know what? We're just entering an industry we don't know. We know nothing about, Dan.
Yeah,
But maybe
I
we should
swear.
become experts.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do this too. We should start doing bribes, and instead of ad support or like
bribe
donor support,
yeah.
we're gonna do bribe support here.
Yeah.
No, exactly. To the point. I know we joke, but in America, are we that different? Or are we just better at like covering it up and calling it something else? Because and I know I'm being maybe a little ignorant here and making some generalizations. But that's the basis of our show here. So, super PACs, lobbyists, is that not just money controlling what things we do or are not done or access?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bribe, really. I know that's where I'm getting murky. But how far from it?
But functionally,
functionally. Literally, these Koreans are sending money, paying other organizations, paying so they can have the same budget or so they can have the same access
or whatever, right?
But they have to do it secretly because they've got this weird social system set up.
Yeah.
But don't we fundamentally do the same thing?
Yeah. We do. I mean, I just thought of another friend who has to bribe for his construction, whatever.
Oh, don't get me started with, I mean, for sure.
Construction.
It exists, yes. I worked in construction and development, and I have seen my fair share of bribes, extortion, all of the bad words, everything. I've been actually a victim of those things before as well. I've got extorted before, and don't worry, I did not take it or did not bow to that. Actually, I was being strong-armed, but that's another life. Now I do podcasts about North Korea. So yes, it exists, right? It's pervasive everywhere.
Everywhere.
I'll say this. Here's my story. So I used to work in Haiti right after the earthquake back in 2010. And that was like a bribe a day for me. Like I was paying bribes, but it was kind of similar to the situation. It was a country that was in shambles after an earthquake and also just political unrest. Nothing was moving. Everything bureaucratic blockades. We're trying to get supplies and things into the places that we were supporting, the towns that we were supporting. We literally would have to pay a bribe every time, at every crossing, at everything, just to give someone
grease
something
the wheels,
to let
as
us
they say.
To let us go. Yes.
Yeah.
And at the time, I did not feel ethically wrong about it. It was frustrating to have to do that, but I also understood, like, the country is not doing well.
Yeah.
Everyone's just trying to survive. It's this whole thing about trying to survive.
Yes.
Again. And
and you got these rich Americans coming in, blah blah blah. Yeah, I get it. I can I give you my example from China? Okay, so in China for a long time we were supporting these children who were half North Korean, right? The North Korean women would come in, they'd get sold to Chinese men, and the kids that they would have it's very murky, their citizenship status and their legal status, their paperwork, right? And so China actually gave them a way to become citizens, right? They had to prove all these crazy things and do all this paperwork, but eventually we would get to the point where we're at the government office with the paperwork, and we had to just grease the wheel a little bit with the final person to submit. Now, as a Christian organization, are we okay with bribes? Technically not, but is this a fee or is this a bribe? The guy is definitely pocketing something, but it's literally buying a child citizenship so that they can have access to medical care, to education, and
that's
things
when
like that.
Semantics become a very where's the line here?
Yeah.
And I think it
and
depends
the Chinese
what context you're coming
government
from.
The Chinese government is okay with, at the end, with these organizations to make up their budgets to charge a little surcharge, and it was significant. It was like $250 US dollars for this end fee at the end, which these people could never afford, but with our help, they could.
Yeah.
So should we have done that? I think absolutely. I don't feel bad about doing that, you know?
Here's a ridiculous notion. Maybe it's not a bribe if the deal is fair or if it's a good deal. You know what I mean? Like, if it's like an unpayable amount, maybe then that's a bribe. But if it's like, I just need an extra $200. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. That's not crazy. $200 to get this child. Sure. Deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's not a bribe then.
And for that fee, we've had to pay $3,000. Right?
Is that okay? Now we're heading into, is that a good deal? $3,000
For citizenship?
That's true. I'm just messing around.
For documentation? Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I've talked to donors about it. Overwhelmingly, our donors are like, yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
It's so interesting how like people's ethics or morals change, especially if they're hard line and like, oh no, bribe is a bribe is a bribe.
Mm-hmm.
That in what context that will change. And that's like really the ethical conversation of like, okay, would you steal to feed your family? Or
right.
would you do immoral things to survive versus, and that's, I always find is a question depending on your context. It's easy to question that when you're in a safe, comfortable, rich context of like, you can think about that and make that ethical decision or not versus being in North Korea in an oppressed country and you're trying to survive by escaping.
Yeah.
And you need to bribe somebody. Or it's a way of life even. Like to them, it's not even an immoral, it's just life. That's it.
Yeah, that's just how like these government officials, right, who are charging this bribe in the case of our situation in China, they worked hard, they studied hard so that they can charge the bribe at the end. Like that's called success, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying, oh, they deserve it or anything. I'm just saying that's how things are done. That is how you work so hard to get to that point. And that's just how it's baked into the system.
Yeah.
Like, how do you change that? And so for Kim Jong Un to say, "Oh, we need to stop bribing" or whatever, I'm sure like it's falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if I were a citizen, like a mid-level official in North Korea, I would say, "This guy is totally out of touch," right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think again, it's from a Western perspective, the bribe season. It's fun for us to talk about this thing. For them, it's just fiscal year 2024 coming up. Budgets are coming in. Everyone submit your budgets, and everyone's kind of taking care of their work for their thing. And so I have another story from, I'm not going to go into the details of the source because it is from North Korea, but they spent a lot of time with North Korean government minders going back and forth from China to North Korea. And what they would tell me is, it was so bizarre because when we were in North Korea, they would request all these, what we would consider bribes, payments for things like, where's this fee? Why haven't you done this? This is like being very bureaucratic about things and access. But then those same minders would follow them into China because they're, documenting this, whatever their work was.
Yeah.
And once they got to China, they then became the ones begging for things from them. And not even like a bribe, like, if you give me this, I'll help you in North Korea. It was just like, give me this, please, please,
Right,
please.
right.
And like begging for things. And they thought it was so bizarre because as soon as they cross, I mean, and it makes sense because the minders who are being minded by somebody else are no longer being minded by someone else once they cross into China.
Right.
Then they can change their tone and attitude. And, you know, to the person I knew, that they were just so, first time it happened, they were so blown away by it. They were like, what is happening right now? This person just changed into like someone who's bribing me to someone who's like begging me for like something, for money and things like that.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. And so like, you know, it just, to me, I walked away thinking like, okay, we call it bribes. It's not that over there. It's just the way of life. Like that is just part of their economy now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting.
It's almost like inflation for that. Like it's this other factor of economic measurement, bribes that are just, or just extra funding that's not recorded or booked.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, so if you want to do something in North Korea, let's say, there was a window of time, let's say like 8 to 10 years ago, through 20 years ago, where companies, churches, organizations would go into North Korea and say, hey, we'd like to start a soy milk factory or a garment factory or fertilizer factory, and we'd like to help you, and we think this would be mutually beneficial. And they, you know, the North Korean people that were put in place to deal with all these things, they knew the deal, man.
Yeah.
Right? Because so crossing borders had a couple opportunities like that in the past that we didn't pursue because, you know, it would cost this much to build a building, this much for the people, blah, 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 right? And then at the end, it's like, and we also need $60,000, right? And that $60,000 is a bribe that you're paying to that person and to also the actual North Korean government, in which some of the times, what are they using that for? For missiles, right? For armaments.
Yeah.
Like, it gets very, very murky, and we weren't comfortable with that type of bribe, right?
Yeah.
Because the downstream effects of what we thought that money would do. But I also get it. If you want to help North Korean people and this is your charge at the door, I don't know. I is that right or wrong? How many lives will you then save in North Korea by feeding someone or helping an orphan or this and that?
Yeah, and if you're ever going to go to any other context, you're not always going to get to play by your rules. Like you're going to be playing by the rules of the home team, right? And they have 5-pointers and 8-pointers in that game. And dunks are worth 4. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be playing different basketball rules. And to that point, I do feel like, and this was in the article as well, the people or the organizations that pay the most during this season are either international organizations trying to come into North Korea to do business, or organizations that are not governmental in Korea, like so businesses. They pay the highest prices during this season because they're the ones who are asking for permits or asking for just even access to land or something.
Right.
From the government itself. So that's who the government is squeezing the hardest. And especially foreign organizations coming in, they're the ones getting taxed, quote unquote, from this bribe season the most. And that was, which makes sense to me, right? Like that's who they're going to take from. If they, and internally, there was some stat in this article, like I think it's right there. So North Korean's government budget in 2021, so this is 3 years ago, was $9.1 billion. Less than 1/40th of South Korea. Wow. 1/40th of the budget. That's crazy. For about roughly the same size land. But it again just shows the context of what North Korea is like in terms of living, their economy, everything.
I wonder if that 9.1 billion is like, it must be the salary of these government workers. And
Who knows?
I would venture to guess that there are so many more government workers in North Korea than there are in South Korea. So salaries, I'm saying that.
Sure. salaries, resources, right?
Yeah. Crazy.
Inefficiencies. Their infrastructure is really bad. They don't even have like a working power grid that's consistent, like all that stuff. Like, but 9.1 billion is a drop in the bucket. It's 1/40th of South Korea. So like they're already working with nothing to get, like you said, all these salaries up and infrastructure running and consistently, all that stuff. Anyway,
it's crazy.
It is. And again, it's just this, it's fun to talk about and just like, oh, bribery season and things like that. But it just always harkens back to this dark, grim reality that's there in North Korea right now. Of like, this is part of their economy. This is, and I don't say that to be like, oh, let's look at how messed up they are. You know, like, oh, they got a bribery season. Come on. It's actually more of like, man, like they operate in a completely different infrastructure than any other part of the world, or most other parts of the world, I should say, where they don't have the same economic wheels turning as anywhere else does. And it's interesting how the machine is operating.
I think I would say this, like, I'm not like shaking my fingers at them or whatever, morally speaking, but I think bribery can be a proxy for just waste, right? Like, if the government wants to do something for the people and they have $1 million to do so, and it takes $500,000 to bribe people just so you can get that, I would say that's waste, right? And that's the victim isn't the system or these businesses even. I think ultimately the victim, as in all cases about North Korea, it's the people, right?
Yes.
Right? Because if it takes so much money to build a road and after it's all done, the road sucks and it doesn't serve the people, then it truly is a problem of waste and a proxy for how inefficient the system is. Yeah,
and I think in any system, right, crap rolls downhill, right? I think is the saying.
Yes.
At least the PG version of how to say that. And the people, to your point, yes, the people are the ones that, because even as we've done in past episodes, there's a black market that the people need to survive to even get things, but the government's cracking down on those things, which is a little bit of a double standard because they themselves are taking bribes and doing these things too, but now they're shutting down on the people's ability to survive.
Exactly.
Which is just unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
If we're going to end on a lighter note, though, that since 2023 and now updated for 2024, North Korea finally seems to be opening its borders a little bit more.
Yeah.
Most recently, in this month, January, there were some talks about a group from Russia poised to be the first tourist group back in North Korea since pre-2020, pre-COVID. So that will increase the bribes, which in this case is a good thing because it gets more money into the economy, hopefully to the people who need it on the lower levels.
Yeah.
On the lower levels, right? So hopefully that's a bright side of like looking into as we head into 2024, North Korea, KJU, talking to you, my friend Marshall. Happy birthday, by the way, belated. We think. we haven't confirmed if that's his actual birthday yet. But as we go into 2024, being open to the world again, and hopefully bribe season can be celebrated by all, and we can bring more fiscal money into the people and economy through tourism, through these other things.
Yes.
If you like the show, please give us a like, download, share us on your favorite podcast store or your favorite Chinese smuggler.